Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. In this episode, we want to look at the concept of the victories that are taking place inside of the Amhara region on the part of the Tigrayan Defense Forces and the equipment that is being captured. Now, we are seeing fairly significant amounts of equipment being captured. Most prominently, we see T-62, T-55s, T-72s, main battle tanks being captured. We see a variety of artillery pieces, mostly the Delta 30 variant of the 122 millimeter howitzer, field artillery piece, towed type artillery. We also see the capturing of the ZSU 23-2 that are mounted mostly on trucks. And again, these are air defense systems that are really used for the ground support role, and they're very effective for going up against forces that could be entrenched on top of mountains and key terrain features and suppressing or reducing those targets that those ZU-23s are operating against. And I've been asked questions in terms of the mechanization that we could be seeing of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. We are obviously seeing the deployment of tanks and tank-like vehicles, meaning armored personnel carriers with tracks and heavier weapons being deployed by the TDF. But what's most important in terms of the obtaining of equipment by the adversary on the part of the TDF is ammunition. And obviously heavy weapons do come into play, but for the most part, the largest part of the effectiveness of the Tigrayan Defense Forces thus far have been the utilization of very aggressive light infantry formations. And these light infantry formations obviously utilize the AK-47 variant rifle as their primary weapon of choice. We do see some different sorts of scoped and optic weaponry that are being used, and then we also see, but not probably as much as are probably needed, are RPG or light anti-tank type weapons that can also be used to take down bunkers and fortified positions. But that is really the key area where I believe that the TDF continues to need to resupply itself with captured weaponry. It's not so much the taking the tanks out of service, taking and destroying those tanks that the Ethiopian National Army possesses. The Amhara militias possess. Really, the heavy armor is part of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, or the remnants of those forces that were evicted from the Tigray region. But again, the most important issue right now for the TDF is to continue to maintain its supply of small arms, its supply of ammunition for those small arms. We do understand that the Ethiopian state does have the capability to produce AK-47 variant rifles, and could possibly even produce, I don't want to say possibly, the Ethiopian state could produce armored vehicles. They could take heavy trucks, and as could the Amhara region, as could the Tigray region, as we have seen in the Civil War, take technical type vehicles and up armor those vehicles with armor plating to be used as infantry support vehicles, especially when you start to utilize the ZSU 23-2 as a component of that armored vehicle. Again, the 23 millimeter round in a direct automatic fire support role, very effective. That's why you see it used so much inside of these conflicts. A mobile piece of equipment that can be loaded onto a truck, relatively accurate, has the ability to have good elevation in terms of engaging targets on top of mountains, as I discussed earlier. But again, the concept of that the TDF is mechanizing its forces, is increasing its heavy combat capability in terms of utilizing tanks and armored vehicles. That is occurring, and we are seeing that take place. But again, the real win when the TDF is able to ambush these columns or defeat any military unit within a conflict zone is the acquisition of further what I would define as smaller weaponry, AK-47s, RPGs, mortars, incredibly effective in this type of conflict where they can be transported by personnel over land somewhat great distances and then be set up and utilized against a target. The heavier pieces, obviously, the tanks, the heavier howitzers, obviously will be used. We are seeing them being used or being ready to be used in the vicinity of Dessay and other areas. But again, when you're traveling in large columns with armored vehicles and heavy artillery and the supplies that are needed to continue to maintain those vehicles, which can be incredibly challenging, and especially a conflict like this, they're also susceptible to air attack. And obviously the Ethiopian army does possess a limited capability to perform air attacks while they're not precision guided at this point, minus the drone equation, which there could be drones operating utilizing precision guided weapons, although I don't think it's on the scale that would be needed to turn the conflict in another direction. Because you have to understand, right now, the fighting is taking place deep inside of the Amhara region, near very large towns and targets deep inside the Amhara region. And I also believe that is what is preventing the Ethiopian Air Force from utilizing some of these Su-27s and other aircraft that are in its possession to drop down bombs on targets in the Amhara region out of fear that they could drop these bombs on the civilian population of the Amhara region. And we've heard that has in fact happened. So whether this becomes a common practice out of desperation, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But again, yes, the Tigrayan Defense Forces are capturing significant amounts of equipment, and at times the possession of some of those tanks, while create interest in terms of the idea that the TDF could be gravitating more towards a conventional conflict and mechanization. The real power and capability of the TDF at this point, and has been through this conflict and even in other past conflicts, are the rapid movement of these light infantry formations operating very aggressively and with a well-led and well-trained leadership. But just wanted to touch on that and talk about it. There was some requests for that information, so I went ahead and fulfilled that. I hope everyone has a great day. I'll talk to everyone soon.